Hi everyone, welcome back to Clayton's Imaginarium. We're back for another review, this time a modern review. We've been doing a few retrospective reviews, of older films recently, but I thought it would be good to do a review of a more recent film that I managed to watch recently because it was available on digital. I didn't go and see this film at the cinema, and that film is Civil War. Before I get into the review, though, I just want to thank everyone for subscribing so far. People have put likes on the videos. It's very, very much appreciated. So thank you very much. And if you do enjoy my content, you do enjoy these reviews, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. It'd be great to interact with you all. I know some of you have commented on videos before, so it'd be good to keep that going, grow the fandom and grow the channel. So thank you very much for that. So, as I say, review of Civil War. This film, like I said, I didn't manage to go and see it at the cinema. I didn't really have time, but it was available on digital, so I was like, well, let's give this a go. So this is written, directed by Alex Garland, and is set during a civil war that's fought across the United States of America. Between sort of like the federal government, who's very much almost, almost very dictatorish, and then several regional sort of factions. Now, in this film, they do break it up into the Western forces being this kind of alliance between and a kind of republic of like Texas, and then another republic in of California, and then there's kind of like loyalist forces. There's the Florida Alliance, and then there's I believe the New People's Army, which is kind of in another region of the states. So in the northwest region. So yeah, but they primarily focus on the Western forces a lot as they're approaching Washington DC. This film was distributed by A24, I believe, more so in the United States. For here, I believe it was Entertainment Film Distributors. But A24, man, they're really on a roll at the moment. They seem to be putting out a lot of good films, just interesting stuff that's a bit different to the sort of what Hollywood's putting out, which, to be quite honest with you, isn't really that great creatively. We might get lucky every now and again that the odd film comes out and it's good, but at the moment it's Hollywood is definitely on the downslope at the moment, to put it nicely. But anyway, so we follow a group of journalists who are on their way to Washington DC to essentially try and interview the president before the Western forces take Washington and essentially execute the president. So they're trying to get there before then, and do all this stuff. But obviously, they have to, because of what's happening with the war, they have to kind of sort of go around it in a, their journey there is like, not direct. They have to kind of go a long way round to get there. And along the way, they encounter different things. Some people committing sort of like war crimes, as well as, just being amongst the battle between certain factions as well. So you get a kind of element of like war journalism, or for the most part, but and then how they sort of deal with it. Kirsten Dunst, she's basically this veteran war photographer. Her name's Lee Smith, I believe, her character, and she's very much like a jaded veteran war photographer. It's kind of alluded to in flashbacks that she's sort of survived a suicide bombing, and she's survived, like, she's been in different conflict zones. But then there's a younger upcoming war photographer who very much admires her, and she's played by Kaylee. Is it Spaney? I think her name is Spaney. However you pronounce her name. She was in a film called Priscilla, which is also meant to be good. I may do a review on that in the future. And she's, I believe, in the upcoming Alien Romulus, if I'm not mistaken. But she's an upcoming actress, but she does a great job of this kind of very sort of naive, sort of overly eager young woman who's basically, not done much of it, but she wants to get into it, and then over the course of this film realizes, sort of the dangers and the sort of sacrifice that war photographers make, and sometimes that can also cost their lives, that if you look in history, that's happened to some of the great war photographers. I mean, look at Robert Capa, who was a war photographer and ended up, I believe, stepping on a landmine at the time it was known as French Indochina, I believe. But yeah, essentially and he died at quite a young age. But Robert Capa, he was like the only war photographer who went back during D-Day. He went back to the beaches twice. So they went with the initial force, and then most of them came back, but he was the only one to return to the beach a second time. Fantastic photographer. But yeah, unfortunately, and that's what I mean, like, not to get too off topic here, but some of the well-known war photographers have had, unfortunately, a tragic end. So it's kind of there's that sort of element to this as well. But all in all, I liked the film. I just felt like it didn't really have anything to say by the end of it. It was kind of very much like, okay, by the way, if you hear any snoring in the background, I do have a companion, a lovely family dog, so she's snoring away on the sofa there. But but yeah, I mean, it's got great sound design. It's very well shot, in my opinion, very well filmed, and like I say, the sound design really adds to this film as well and adds to the tension. There's some really great moments of tension in this film. Don't get me wrong. There is good moments, and performances are great. And I think in a lot of ways, I would say the best. I would say one of the standout performances is Kirsten Dunst's husband. What's his name? Let me click here. Jesse Plemons. Yeah. So he turns up in the film, and he's not in it for very long, but he's a standout in the film. He's probably one of the best parts of the film, actually. Just very kind of like got this kind of very unsettling feel to him, but like, yeah, it's one of those. I won't ruin spoiler or anything, but it's one of those moments in the film where you're like, where our characters that we're following are in a real dodgy situation. So yeah, it just felt like you follow them through this journey until they get to the end, but it just felt like it didn't really have much to say. There's a lot behind there's a lot of sort of political stuff behind the film, but Alex, I suppose in a lot of ways you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. And what I mean by that is, like, if you as a director or writer take one side of the argument, you're going to get criticised by the other side. So he balances very well just walking that fine line between both. you get hints of that there's been certain political upheaval that has led to the conflict. So you'll get little hints of, like, they mention about an Antifa massacre that happens, and they mention about some other elements that have happened, and then it's all kind of led to it. But yeah, the film doesn't really take a stance on anything, which some people might think is a negative. Others might think actually that's a positive thing. I think it's kind of a bit of both, in my opinion. I feel like it's positive in the sense that, okay, you're not gonna get criticized by people who may have an opposite political belief to you, but then there's also not really much commentary. So it's kind of like, it feels like it doesn't go far enough to really kind of, what is the message of the film, And I think that's that's a bit lacking in this film. That's what I would say, is there's not really, there are like themes, but it's kind of like it doesn't really push it enough to kind of have this film stand out. And I think that's part of the issue I have with the film, is that I wasn't expecting this to take any political sides or anything like that. But I just feel like it could have gone a bit further with the themes and further with certain elements of, like, trying to sort of give us even more of a sense of, like, the world that's been built for this film. But at the same time, it's kind of like, to do that, you would probably have to have a longer film, and I do feel like this film is fairly well paced. So I feel like, it's a bit of a catch-22 really, but yeah, overall, I mean, if I like I say, I enjoyed the film, I liked it, but is it one that I feel, I think it depends really, doesn't it? If it's going to be, like, remembered as such, because in the long term, because I find, like, some films when they first come out, you kind of just, they might not make as much of an impact, but then when years later maybe certain events happen and actually people go and look back on that on the film and go, oh wow, this film actually predicted something that was going to happen, then then it might be looked on very differently. But again, this is a film very much that's been made in reaction to the current political climate that is happening in the United States, right? So it's very much a reaction to that. And I think that's really what would best describe this film, is it's a reaction to current events. Which in a lot of ways the film might not age well, but we'll see. It's one of those things that maybe it will, maybe it won't. There are certain things in there that I think will all won't age as much, as the film as time goes along, and people maybe look back on this film, but it's very much a product of its time. It's very much, a reaction to current political climate in the United States. And I think that's really what it is. It's just a reactionary film that is basically, I suppose, spelling some warnings as to, like, okay, if we keep going down the road we're going down, this could potentially be a possibility. But I suppose the future's uncertain, so who knows? But yeah, in terms of the actual sequences in this film and the warfare and how it's filmed, and like I say, the sound design is brilliant. The way it kind of really heightens the tension in certain scenes. And like I say, the sequences, the way they film the conflict stuff is very, very well done. So, yeah, overall, I would recommend this film for anyone who hasn't seen it. I think it deserves a watch, and it deserves, a sort of viewing and some form of analysis as well. But like I say, it only gives you hints about the sort of economic impact, and like, you know, there's little hints from the world, but it's very much a contained story on these war photographers, or these group of journalists, basically. So yeah, maybe the background world could have been a bit more kind of had a bit more of an influence in the film. But yeah, overall I enjoyed it. I'd highly recommend it. It's you know, it's definitely worth a watch, and I think, you know, some people will like it, some people won't, but hey ho, you know, that's film for you. But yeah, like I say, I'm in the middle with this film. I would say, like, you know, if I had to give it a rating, it would be probably a 3-star out of 5 film for me. I know other critics gave it more, but for me, it just felt like it just needed a bit more to put it over. And I think, yeah, for me, I was in the middle with it. So yeah, let me know your thoughts in the comments. If you enjoyed this review, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell for all notifications, and if you like the video, hit that thumbs up. It's always very much appreciated on my part. And let me know in the comments below what you thought of this film, whether you liked it, whether you didn't like it, and why. You know, why you didn't like it. You know, maybe it just didn't really appeal to you, or whatever. But yeah, let us know in the comments. I'd be really interested to hear other people's thoughts on this film, because I do feel like it was one of those films that I wouldn't say was, you know, created division between people, but it was more like, I did see that some people liked it, and then other people didn't like it as much. So yeah, it'd be really interested to hear your thoughts. But yeah, that's the review, and I will see you all on the next one. Bye, guys.